بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I'm used to saying brothers and sisters, so forgive me. My name is Shadia Salem, and I'm a state licensed Texas therapist. I started off not being a therapist. I started off in the IT world, and I worked in the world of information technology in large corporations for 18 years. And after I got married, I stopped working, and then I decided at some point that I was going to go back and become a counselor for, well, initially it was for people in hospitals. But I went back and I became licensed. A lot of the times there's a lot of confusion in our Ummah between certification and licensing. And this is a big problem because a lot of the times people are looking for licensed help, and they end up falling for something that is not licensed. And so it's important that our Ummah knows the difference between certified versus licensed, between the difference between psychologist and psychiatrist. And normally when I have a client, I go through all of that so that they walk away informed whether they become my client or not. I was born and raised in the United States predominantly, and I came from a very dysfunctional family. And at the time that I was being raised, there was no help accessible. And eventually I got married, and our daughter got sick, and it was during the time in the hospital that I realized I'd like to come back and become a counselor for people in the hospital. However, as I went to counseling school, I realized our Ummah is in a lot of pain, and we don't have the tools to deal with this, and so I wanted to become a resource to the Ummah. And then my husband, after I graduated, opened up and funded the Mass Center, and it was HIPAA compliant. And alhamdulillah, we did that for many years until COVID hit and we had to close it down, and he got sick. And so since then I had to open my own private practice, and I've been working in that capacity. Alhamdulillah. So we have a small group here tonight. Everything was kind of last minute, and I thank Sister Shamina for putting this, Dr. Shamina for putting this together. And when I have a small group like this, I like you guys to kind of dictate what your needs are and what you'd like to talk about. I have hosted students in the Dallas area at UTD, UNT, those areas where students, I'll give a small little talk and then they ask me a lot of questions. So we can discuss anything from academics to marriage to, I've worked in HR, I've worked in IT, I've worked in on nuclear power plants, I've helped companies merge on a national level. So you guys can talk to me about these things, and this is an opportunity for you guys to ask whatever you want, as well as to for you to hear it from a person that's not biased and that wants the best for you and wants to beautify our Ummah. Alternatively, I can go through this, but it really is about relationships and intensive marriage stuff. So I will let you guys decide what you would like to hear tonight. Any suggestions?
Start speaking right now.
So how about let me get a gauge for the age group here.
We're all the same age, right?
We're 22. She's 20.
I'm 26.
I'm 25.
Okay, 25. And
54.
you're the baby of the baby. So, and الأخت عندك أولاد؟
عندي إيه؟
قديش؟
عندي 4 أولاد و3 بنات.
She's got 4 boys and 3 girls. ما شاء الله. الله يخليك إياها ما شاء الله. Alhamdulillah. So okay, so let me ask you this. For our age group, for this age group, you guys are anybody married from the youth that you're married? How long have you been married?
3 years.
3 years, mashallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you guys, your union, and always put barakah in it and be pleasing to him. And anybody else? Not yet. Inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you guys good Muslim spouses, and may you all always be pleasing to him, Azza wa Jal. Okay, so I do premarital counseling, and I do a lot of talks for people that have not yet married, because there's a lot of things that we need to discover about ourselves and our spouse before we cross that threshold. And a long time ago, at the time that our parents were getting married, there was a lot less questions to ask. And they kind of find out a lot later that, maybe we should have, covered that topic. So it could be about premarital, if you guys want to discuss that, and it could also be about how to manage and balance marriage with a career. I was a career woman before I got married, so I was very clear in that I did not want to work after I got married because I was really tired of it. And then I did that for a good stretch, and then I realized, I really need to go back to work. But my computer skills were outdated, and so that's where the counseling came in. Is there anything in particular that you guys would like to discuss? And I'm going to just put this as a caveat. All of you get to start the sentence with, I have a friend that. I have a friend that. So, and my husband and I also went to not premarital, we did premarital, but we hit a rough patch in our marriage, and we went to marriage therapy, and it made a huge difference. It actually saved the marriage. So I did that, and I have a friend that did. So okay, so
I think we should start off with maybe talking about some premarital stuff, since majority of us here are not married. So I think that would be super helpful.
Okay.
And then the rest half we can talk about balancing career with marriage and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because a lot of us are gonna be in that field. So.
Everybody okay with?
Yep.
All right, bismillah. So I created a premarital questionnaire for people. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I created a premarital questionnaire for people, and that is, it has two themes to it. One, for people that don't know each other at all, and for people that have already picked each other. So, if you've picked each other, then you've gone through the courtship and stuff like that, and people are a little too shy to ask a lot of questions. And so what I do is I meet with both of them individually, and I get a lot of the, what do you really want to know? What do you, and I create this stuff, and I analyze it, and we put it together. They get these questionnaires separately, but the bigger thing is this. I bring out the questions that nobody wants to ask, and that's this. When we get married, I don't want any in-laws living with us, for example. Well, sometimes some people come from a single parent due to divorce or death or that sort of thing, and that parent is particularly attached to this child. Well, that becomes a hard topic. There's also the fact that sometimes some people say no. For us to get married, my parent must live with us. Unfortunately, I have come across a lot of couples that have misrepresented what they really want before they've gotten married, which has caused a lot of problems afterwards. So they seem to think that crossing that line, halas, I got them married, that's it. And that is not okay. And Islam is actually has a very high standard of honesty that is demanded from a person when there's a question and answer period. So two people, I forgot to bring my statues and dolls and stuff like that. So two people say, I want to get married. We've made the intention, we're talking with the intention of getting married. That relationship becomes protected. So suppose Sakinat, if you are okay with me using it as an example, Sakinat and a gentleman and a brother are talking about marriage. But then, so suppose his name is Jamal. So, but guess what? Ahmed is like, I've had my eye on Sakinat. So he tries to go in there and interfere. That actually is not acceptable in Islam. Once the Sakinat and Jamal have decided that they're gonna talk about marriage, that's protected. We don't do anything to disturb that. It's like the endangered species when they're mating. We just leave that alone. It's protected. The other thing is, we don't give information to anybody. Hey, I heard you wanted to marry Sakinat, or Sakinat, I heard you wanted to marry Jamal. Let me tell you about Jamal. We don't do that unless we ask. So it's important that we protect the process. Now, sometimes it's hard because we have to actually be very mindful And we have to understand where our own boundaries are. In the Muslim Ummah, boundaries are a very tough line. It's a very tough thing, and it comes into a lot of different areas. A lot of times mother-in-laws have a lot to say about it, or siblings, or so it becomes hard. So once they decide to get married, bi'idhnillah, then there's rules to follow. But before that, there's questions that we ask, and that's this. Based on the premarital and postmarital couples that I've had, I've noticed that we don't talk about sensitive things. We seem to think we're under the impression that, oh, we agree on a lot of things. We accept vague answers. So, oh, do you like sports? Yeah, I like sports. Well, how do you like sports? Do you play? Do you participate? Do you, are you a live spectator? How much time a week do you spend on that? But those are superficial. What's not superficial is this. When you get married, is there an expectation that there's going to be, this household is going to be a dual income household? And if the answer is yes, what does our dean say about her income versus his income? His income is ours, her income is hers. And if she chooses to participate or to contribute to the household income, she can, but it's not incumbent on her. Now, suppose he only makes a modest income. Suppose he makes $30,000 a year. And with that, he can only afford a small apartment and a small car. Well, if she chooses not to work, she does not have to work, and it's intended to preserve her as well as not oppress her. But she cannot say, I want you to put me in a castle on his 30 grand a year. She has to accept the standard of living that he can provide. Otherwise, she can choose to work and contribute. The other part of that is, can he accept that she's working and making her own money and has her own financial independence? Some people, some men are threatened by that. And that is a big deal. So that needs to be discussed beforehand. And maybe she wants to contribute, but she doesn't want to contribute everything. And the other part of that is maybe she wants to contribute, but she doesn't want her money, her funds accessible to him. And if she chooses, our dean says she can choose to spend that money anywhere she wants. She's not accountable to him. He can say, why are you spending all your money on makeup? Well, that's my choice. Why are you giving all your money to your family of origin? That's my choice. He's not allowed to comment on it. And we don't always have those rules followed. The other thing is that I'm kind of surprised at the amount of, so if a female chooses to be a stay-at-home person, she stays at home, her job then is the home. That is her job. If he is a person that works, his job is to be the professional that provides. I have noticed that a lot of men come to me and say, well, her job isn't so hard. She just stays at home. She takes care of the kids. That's easy. Rahamakallah. The other part is, that wasn't my husband. The other part is, she'll say, he gets to take breaks anytime he wants. He gets the chance to go out with his buddies, or, his days, he's just sitting at the computer. And then there's this narrative of, he comes home and he'll say, Sister Shadia, she's not energetic, or she's not interested in me, or she'll come to me and she'll say, he doesn't help, and, I don't like the fact that he gets to go out all the time to work, and I'm a victim, I gave up so much. I immediately hone in on the word victim and sacrifice and eliminate it. This is actually a terrible way to create a mindset in your mind. You don't actually say the words, I sacrifice. No, you made a choice. You made a choice to be a housewife, to be a mom, and that's a choice, and it's a hard job. It is a hard job, and it's an honorable job. But it's a choice, it's not a sacrifice, because unless you were forced into that position, this was a choice, and we get to honor that choice, no matter what society thinks of it. In some cultures, in some of the Asian cultures, they find that to be one of the most rewarding jobs, and they actually elevate that. And the second to that is teachers. Teachers are very competitive, Japan particularly. So I like to eliminate the I sacrificed, unless it was are you willing to give up your career to stay at home because I need a wife that's willing to do that? And if you say, okay, I'm willing to do that, but I want you to know that that's not really where my heart is, or maybe after a certain amount of time or a certain amount, the kids are at a certain age that I get to go back, then there is a sacrifice because that really was a compromise that was discussed. Finances, time, are big contentious issues in young couples that they don't discuss. Are the in-laws going to live with us? That's another one. One of the big ones that's coming up is social media. I ask this straight up. Are you going to share your password with your spouse? Are you allowed to have social media accounts that your spouse does not know of? I ask him and her, what does it mean when one spouse finds out that their other spouse has these secret accounts? What does it mean when your spouse or yourself have friends from the opposite sex? Is it okay? Is it not okay? I don't make the rules. The couple gets to make the rules. You all get to make your own rules with this person. So when they come to me and they say, I don't like the fact that he's talking to women or she's talking to men, okay, before you got married, what were the rules that you guys set forth? A lot of the times this isn't discussed. Sometimes by virtue of our jobs, you have to talk and deal and meet with the opposite gender, fine. But sometimes we have friendships develop from that. Is your spouse okay with that? I know that we had Khadija radiallahu anha. She was a famous and successful business person, and so she dealt with the different genders. And we have Aisha radiallahu anha, who was a scholar. Now, what were the boundaries set, the hudud? I'm not exactly sure. I do know that at one point there was the veil, the curtain that was put up, and they would talk across the curtain, but she led an army. She was one of the leaders of leading an army after the Prophet ﷺ passed away. So, we do have female scholars and business people, but your social media has to be discussed in detail with whoever you choose to marry. And your social media can never, ever, ever be a priority over the relationship. That means that your spouse comes home or you come home and you don't say, like, you don't give the finger, just a minute, or you don't ignore the spouse, or he should not ignore you. And it should never be, hey, I choose to stay on social media rather than watch this with my husband or go to bed with him or do something like that. I mean, you have to make choices that are healthy, and just understand two things. So, and I do include this, anytime I talk about marriage, I do talk about this, and it's really, really important, and that's this. The first is this. Allah Azza wa Jal has said, marriage completes our deen. Completes our deen, it's half our deen. So we know that we're supposed to pray, and we fast, we give zakah, hajj if we can afford it, we give the shahada, and all of those things are the fundamentals of Islam, but it doesn't complete our deen. Marriage completes our deen. I always tell this to everybody, and I always ask them to be incredibly honest before they marry, so that it'll be easier to complete your deen, and that when we stand in front of Allah Azza wa Jal, that we have that honesty. But the other part is this. In Surah Al-Kahf, we read that every Friday. And in Surah Al-Kahf, we're told, what is this book that doesn't escape a detail from it? What is this book that's revealing everything about me? And really, in that book, we want to be able to say, I completed my deen and I did the best that I can to please you, Allah, in this process. Something with the status of completing your deen cannot be easy. Sometimes fasting is hard. Sometimes praying is hard. Wallahi, there's times I'm like so tired, but we do it. And sometimes, it's like, oh, if I didn't have to give the zakah, I could go on that vacation. But the truth of the matter is this completes our deen. And everything that we have to do as Muslims is a test. Our youth is a test. Our beauty is a test. Our old age is a test. Our wealth is a test. Our poverty is a test. Every scenario. How is it that marriage can't be a test? Marriage is a test. Marriage is a test, man. It is the long haul test. And it is hard. So that doesn't mean that, oh, in order for me to pass my tests, I have to eat my poison to be pleasing to Allah. Allah Azza wa Jalla does not say that. Don't be miserable. But there is a way to communicate, a way to give a gift, a way to greet somebody, a way to say I'm sorry, a way to give, to accept accountability. And in that process, if you have children, they're taking notes. They are absolutely taking notes. And believe me, it doesn't matter what you say, like don't ever talk to your dad like that. Guess what? If you guys are yelling and screaming at each other, or using language that isn't appropriate, those kids are not going to hear what you tell them. They're going to absorb what you guys are doing and recreate the cycle. And I've seen it. I'm old enough to have seen generational trauma perpetuated, and it's terrible. The other thing about marriage is this. Sometimes people come forth and they say, this is my financial, marry me. This is, I'm, rich, I own this house, and I da-da-da-da. And it's not true. So now, because I've seen so many of these cases come up, before you get married, you run a background check on that person, a financial background check, a credit check, and you provide yours as well. To make sure that what they're saying is honest. It's actually not a insult, but it is important. I don't like anybody being surprised or shocked. Sometimes some people get married and they realize their spouse has a lot of debt, and sometimes they have really bad credit. They've not only made bad credit choices, but they've done fraud. Okay, you want to know if the person's done that sort of thing. Those types of things are typically not asked when we're getting to know somebody. We forget to ask those things, and it's a painful thing to realize later. Let me think here. Okay, so I'm 22 minutes in. Do you guys have any questions so far?
I have 2 questions.
Go ahead.
I feel like you can answer them. They didn't really go with the topic, but they're questions that have been on my mind, so I was like, I might as well ask it now.
Bismillah.
The first question is, dang it, the first question just skipped my mind.
La ilaha illallah. Say la ilaha illallah.
I'll ask the second question.
Okay.
For the second question is, they always tell you when they're giving you marital advice and stuff like that, like, the honeymoon phase doesn't last forever. I feel like the honeymoon phase can last, but my question is, how do you make it last? Because, the way they say it, it's like, oh, you fall out of love, but I'm like, I don't really like the phrase fall out of love, because it means like you just stop loving the person. But I don't believe there's a time you stop loving the person, but I don't believe like love is linear. It's just like always like high. I feel like it's up and down, high and low, but I don't feel like you fall out of love with people, like with someone,
Yeah.
So that was my first question. Second.
Let me answer that, maybe it'll come to you.
Yes.
All right. So it's a good question. Jazakallah khair for asking that. And the people that are married, feel free to jump in. So alhamdulillah. So here's my take on that.
Oh, I remember the second one.
Bismillah.
Okay. The second one was, what is your opinion on marital counseling even while married? Like just a constant thing, something that you continue.
Oh, very good.
Because I have my own opinions on it, and I think I have positive opinions on it, but I want to hear yours as someone who's already been doing counseling and premarital counseling and stuff like that.
Okay. So I'm going to tackle that one first because it's cut and dry for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're asking the counselor about counseling,
Yeah.
right? So, there's an obvious, but here's the deal. Counseling is tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just go to counseling. Number one, when you go to a counselor, you always tell them what your goal is. Be clear on your goal. So when my husband and I went to marital counseling, it was our goal is to fix our marriage. We've got some problems and we need to fix it. And our goal is to stay together. So we let the counselor know this is what our goal is. when you go to any kind of counselor, any kind of counseling, be clear on what your goal is. That's important, because I tell my clients, and I make them write it down, what is your goal? Because if they don't tell me my goal, then they have to accept my goal for them. And it might not be stated, but I have an agenda of steering them somewhere. Now, when I get a marital couple, I tell them, if you don't know what your goal is, my goal, and I tell them this, I'm pro-marriage, so my goal is to keep you guys married. And that'll be my goal. The marriage is now my client, and that'll be my goal, unless you tell me otherwise. And if you tell me otherwise, then my goal will be for you guys to go separate ways in a way that's pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal. I see Muslims and non-Muslims, so it's not, of course my language is tailored, but my path is the same. My methods are the same. Now, regarding married couples that are happy, that want to have marital counseling. So there's always something to learn and to enhance. So yes, it's always good to do a check-in. Always very good to do a check-in. Find out what's going really well, find out what's not going well. Sometimes counseling can make a person realize, I didn't know that this thing irritated him or her, and I've been blinded by it. They didn't share it, and there's two things. Number one, now I know, and I can choose to change or augment. And then number two is, what made that person not tell me? And you have to be comfortable in that uncomfortable space, because you might hear something like, I didn't want to hurt your feelings, or I didn't think it was a big deal, even though it's kind of been bothering me, or there's always going to be something. We're imperfect people, and we do the best that we can. So there's got to be room to make mistakes and be okay with that. As long as there's a space to say, that didn't land very well. I didn't think it would sound like that. I didn't know it would impact you like that. I am sincerely sorry. I thank you for acknowledging that. I accept your apology. I'm ready to move on. We can just put it behind us. I mean, there's different ways to deliver an apology, or to course correct, and to accept that without weaponizing it and turning it into, yeah, well, that's it. I'm just going to save that for later. Oh, remember that time when you said this and this and that? Well, I'm not putting up with that anymore. So does that answer your question?
Yeah,
regarding the counseling.
Question, yes. I have a follow-up question. My follow-up question is for, a couple that is like happy and steady and like they're married and stuff like that. How often would you recommend them going in for that check?
I always tell the clients they can choose the pace.
Okay.
So I had one particular client, they have 5 kids. And what they do is once a year, they want a session to discuss the needs of every kid. So once a year, they have 5 sessions, one for each kid. And they map out the year for that kid. What does this kid need to succeed? What does this kid lack? What does this kid thrive in? And they go based on the goals and the personality of the kid every year. And then they spend one session on them. And that's just a once a year thing. Other people like to do it more frequently, again, depending on that level of satisfaction that they have. And there's always different exercises, and there's always something to learn. When I get a couple that says, well, I know everything I need to know about her or him, I'm like, my husband and I will still take dating quizzes and stuff like that, and and we'll have to answer for each other to see like how well do you think you know me, type of thing. So, and we don't always get it right, even after 25 plus years. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So even with regular counseling, individual counseling, couples counseling, whatever it is, I always tell the client, you get to pick how often you want to see me. Once a week is the gold standard, but there isn't anything weird about that. Some people need to see me once every other week, once a month, or 2 or 3 times a week. That's okay. They get to pick the pace, and I walk the journey with them. And I'm very comfortable with that. And I get to do that with my private practice. I don't get to do that when I'm working for a company, because sometimes they have quotas.
Yeah.
And I don't work with quotas. What I do is I try to get the person to their best self as quickly as possible, because this was from Allah, not from the company.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Love. Your next question was love. Here's the deal with love. So my husband and I faced some pretty difficult times. But one of the things that kept us together through the toughest times, I swear to God, this is the truth, and it was such an incredible lesson. I will tell this to every single couple from the get-go. Have fun. Have fun. Have fun, whether it's teasing each other, whether it's doing sports together, whether it's have like fun. Like really when you just do that belly laugh, have fun. I'm gonna tell you guys a story. So my husband and I very quickly learned that we were competitive people. We're just competitive. We play air hockey, we play basketball, we wrestle, we do all sorts of stuff. And we just start cracking up and laughing and this and that, and he always accuses me of cheating, and I never cheat, and I just win. And so we had a thing about betting on like basketball games, or he's a big football and baseball. So my thing was this, but basketball is sacred, but football and baseball, so my thing was this, you pick the team and I'm just gonna bet against you. And he'd be like, you can't do that, but just pick your team, I'm gonna bet against you. And I'd make fun of the team and this and that, I'd tease him, and he'd kind of be irritated with it. And a lot of times I'd win, and we'd bet a dinner out, or we would bet, a house, or we would bet a night on the beach, or we would bet, and I'd win all these things. So one day I said, if I win, I want unconditional kisses. And he said, what does that mean? I said, it means that no matter what's going on, no matter what, if we're fighting, if we're not fighting, whatever, if I say I want a kiss, that means you have to deliver. So he said, okay. So one day, I know, I guess you can't publish it now. So I should have said hug or something, or a high five. You guys are old enough, come on, give me a break. So, you're gonna sit through this. Okay, so one day we were in Sweden, and we were walking up this castle. And this castle was just stairs all the way up, and it was exhausting. So you got this big, beautiful view of Sweden, and then we're walking all the way down, and so we're walking. Then all of a sudden he elbows me and he runs down. And I thought, he's beating me down to say I'm a loser. So I waited, I'm walking and I'm waited. He gets all the way down and he looks like, and I said, give me a kiss. And I stood there and he had to. See, now, not only was that fun, but it was fun to tell it in front of his friends. Have fun, whatever that fun is. It keeps the relationship young and alive. No matter what it is, you guys get to define what fun is. And Aisha radiallahu anha has said that the Prophet ﷺ, and I was able to use that example because of this, Aisha said he would suck my lip and my tongue, right? He said that about the halawa of their relationship. And so I'm using a very innocent but fun type of example. So, we play air hockey. It used to be that we would settle an argument in air hockey. When we were going to marital counseling and we were facing some very serious issues, sometimes we would just start laughing, or we'd take a break and play some basketball or whatever it was, because we knew that we can always have fun together. And if we could find that space, then we can always carry all the other stuff. It would make it lighter because we always had something to look forward to. So I would say, have fun. And you will find that love, there are variations of love. When you live with someone for a long time, you're going to irritate them, they're going to irritate you. It's just, the truth. Nobody is perfect, but there is that connection. I mean, some people have, through their toughest times, they have incredible chemistry. Some people have, like David and I, we just have so much fun. So you get to find that thing that you guys always connect on, and you'll find that through the ups and downs, that thing will carry you guys through. I don't know the falling out of love or the falling in love. When I was pregnant with our daughter, we were probably married, I think by then, 4 years. And it was a high-risk pregnancy, and I was walking, I said to him, I'm gonna go to the grocery store, and he didn't work too far away from where we lived. And so I went to the grocery store, and as I was walking towards the store, I saw this guy from far away. And I thought, oh, bismillah, mashallah, that's a good-looking guy. And then I thought, astaghfirullah, and I put my head down, right? As the dude got closer, it turned out to be my husband. Dang, man. I was like, so, alhamdulillah, you know. So,
That's so cute.
so, you know, there's this subhanallah. And don't take a look at a guy, you know, you have your, you know, you take a look at somebody that's presenting himself to you, and you think, you know, this is not what I was looking for. My philosophy was this: if the person is a good Muslim, then consider them. You know, there might not be, you know, I was engaged to a guy who was, I always wanted the firstborn, an engineer, taller than me, blah, blah, blah. He was all of that. We got engaged and it was terrible. So it was never on my landscape that I would marry outside my culture. Never. In fact, when he asked for my hand, my brother said to him, you know, I hope that you don't stop, you continue to be a family friend of ours, but, you know, I don't see my sister saying yeah to a white guy. So, you know, but there was chemistry instantly, subhanAllah. Find that thing that you guys connect on and keep it alive. And you'll be amazed. The feelings, you know, elevate, and, you know, there is fluctuation in feeling, but really Allah Azza wa Jalla just gives you that rahmah and that love, and it's absolutely beautiful. Alhamdulillah. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions?
I have a question. It's more marriage like related. So when a couple like has their first child together, and I know like I've heard a lot of like how the parents are not gonna have time for each other. So how would you recommend keeping it alive then?
I will tell you, according to Gottman, and he is the guru of relationships, and you'll find people that are Gottman. I don't love Gottman, to be honest, and I'm saying it, and I'm saying it right there on
I
film.
want to know.
So I will tell you the good and bad about Gottman, but his science is good. His science is solid, and it is this: you have people with marital satisfaction, and then once you start having kids, because I mean, that's what the dream is. We want to have kids. So for
It's just that
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
it's a